Charles Ponzi, the man who made the world believe in a financial fantasy. How did he manage to deceive thousands of people and create one of the largest fraud schemes in history? What motivated him to build such a complex web of lies and illusions? Ponzi, an immigrant with big dreams, turned the promise of quick profits into a financial nightmare for many Americans. The scheme seemed perfect. Investments with returns of 50% in just 45 days. But why did so many people fall into this trap? The answer lies in human greed and the search for quick prosperity. Ponzi manipulated people's emotions, offering not only money but hope in times of economic hardship. How did he keep the charade going so long without being discovered? The collapse was inevitable. But how did the truth finally come out? Investigators discovered inconsistencies that led to the collapse of the Ponzi empire. The revelation exposed a web of deception that shook confidence in the financial system. The impact was devastating, but the lessons learned continue to resonate. What can we take away from this story of cunning and tragedy? Let's dive into the mind of Charles Ponzi and unravel the secrets behind the genius who deceived the world. Imagine a man capable of convincing thousands of people to hand over their savings with the promise of quick wealth. Charles Ponzi, an Italian immigrant, did just that. But how did he do it? What made it so convincing? And why did so many fall into its trap? Let's unravel the mastermind behind the biggest scam in history. What motivated Charles Ponzi to create his scheme? Charles Ponzi arrived in the United States with big dreams and few possessions. His desire to achieve quick financial success was the spark that started it all. Ponzi discovered an opportunity in international postal coupons, a system that allowed coupons in different countries to be exchanged for postage stamps. He realized that he could buy these coupons cheaply in Italy and sell them for a substantial profit in the US. But why did people believe in his proposal? Greed and the desire for quick prosperity have blinded many to the risks. Ponzi, with his charismatic personality, offered more than money. He sold hope and a short path to riches. Ponzi's seduction lay in his ability to tell a compelling story. It promised returns of 50% in just 45 days, a number that seemed magical. Many Americans, still recovering from World War I, saw this as a chance to rebuild their lives quickly. Ponzi wasn't just a salesman. He was a master in psychology. He understood the deep needs and desires of his investors and used them to his advantage. The promise of quick and substantial profits seemed like the perfect solution to many. But how did Ponzi manage to keep the charade going for so long? He began by paying the first investors with the money of the new ones, creating the illusion of a legitimate and profitable business. Word spread quickly, and the demand to participate in the scheme increased exponentially. Satisfied investors recommended Ponzi to their friends and family, further fueling the cycle. As new waves of investment continued to arrive, Ponzi seemed to always be one step ahead. What no one knew was that the entire structure was built on an unstable foundation and destined to collapse. How did he manage to fool so many people for so long? Charles Ponzi's ability to deceive so many people for so long is due in part to his ability to create an image of success and prosperity. He rented a luxurious office in downtown Boston and surrounded himself with symbols of wealth. His extravagances included a mansion and a lifestyle that impressed many. Ponzi knew that perception was everything. By presenting a facade of success, he convinced people that he had indeed discovered a magic formula for profit. The confidence he exuded was contagious and difficult to question. Ponzi used brilliant manipulation tactics. He paid the first investors with the money of the new ones, creating a false appearance of success. This strategy, known as Robinsonization, where one steals from Peter to pay Paul, worked because it created a cycle of trust. People saw others receiving their profits and believed that they would also have the same return. The lack of transparency in the financial market at the time also facilitated Ponzi operations, as there was little regulation and oversight. With each new investment cycle, Ponzi got closer to collapse. He knew that eventually the number of new investors would not be enough to pay off the previous ones. The pressure was mounting as more and more people invested their life savings. Ponzi tried to prop up the charade with increasingly extravagant promises. But the simple math of the situation meant that collapse was inevitable. When the scheme finally fell apart, it left a trail of financial destruction and ruined lives. showing the fragility of human trust in the face of greed. Why did the Ponzi scheme fall apart? The truth about the Ponzi scheme began to emerge when investigative journalists and financial regulators noticed inconsistencies in Ponzi operations. One of the leading journalists, Clarence Barron, has published a series of articles exposing the untenable mathematics behind the scheme. He pointed out that for the Ponzi plan to work, there would have to be about 160 million postal coupons in circulation, far more than actually existed. This revelation began to open the public's eyes to the reality that they were being deceived. The pressure increased, and the pyramid began to crumble. Investors began to demand their returns, and Ponzi did not have enough funds to pay them. Financial authorities intervened, and an audit revealed the extent of the scheme. The Ponzi system, which looked so promising, was doomed from the start. When he could no longer attract new investors to support payments to the old ones, everything fell apart. The collapse was swift and devastating, ruining the lives of thousands of Americans and exposing the fragility of the financial system at the time. The Ponzi crash was not only a personal failure, but also a systemic failure. The impact was profound, resulting in significant changes in financial regulation to prevent future similar fraud. The collapse of the Ponzi scheme served as a wake-up call for investors and regulators, underscoring the importance of due diligence and transparency in investments. The financial tragedy that followed the collapse of the Ponzi scheme left lasting scars, but also valuable lessons for the future. The economic and social impact of the Ponzi scheme in the United States. The Ponzi scheme had a devastating impact on the American economy. Thousands of people lost their life savings, and confidence in the financial system was shaken to the core. Panic spread, and many investors became skeptical of any investment opportunity. The magnitude of the fraud has led to widespread distrust in financial markets, negatively impacting the economy during an already delicate period. In addition to the financial impact, the Ponzi scheme had significant social consequences. People began to question the integrity of business leaders and the security of their economies. Families have been destroyed, friendships have ended, and trust between people has been seriously compromised. The collective trauma caused by fraud has left deep marks on American society, leading to increased vigilance and distrust of investment opportunities. The Ponzi affair also led to important reforms in the American financial system. Stricter regulations have been put in place to prevent similar fraud in the future. The Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, was created in 1934 as a direct response to this type of fraud, with the aim of protecting investors and maintaining the integrity of financial markets. The Ponzi legacy, while tragic, has resulted in greater protection for investors and greater transparency in financial markets. Charles Ponzi, a man who started out as a simple immigrant, became a legend, but not in the way he expected. Charles Ponzi began his journey in the United States as an immigrant with big dreams and ambitions. He worked a variety of jobs, trying to find his way to success. However, it was his ability to manipulate and deceive that led him to fame, an infamous fame. Ponzi has become a symbol of financial fraud. Its name synonymous with fraudulent schemes that promise high returns without a sustainable foundation. His legacy is a tale of cunning ambition and tragedy. Ponzi's life after the revelation of his scheme was a bitter reflection of his choices. He was arrested and convicted on multiple counts of fraud, spending years in prison. After serving his sentence, he was deported to Italy, where he tried new endeavors, but was never able to replicate his initial success. He died in poverty, a reminder of the ultimate price of his fraudulent actions. Ponzi may have fooled the world, but in the end, he paid the highest price. The story of Charles Ponzi is a reminder that sometimes the glitz of gold can blind even the most prudent. His life and actions continue to serve as a powerful warning about the dangers of greed and unethical business. Ponzi fooled the world, but he left behind a lasting lesson about the importance of honesty and transparency in investing. He may have been a genius of fraud, but his legacy is an eternal warning to all who seek quick riches without considering the consequences. Charles Ponzi's legacy did not end with his arrest. How does its history continue to influence today's financial world? What do we learn from the cunning and manipulation he employed? Human greed has not changed, but are we more prepared to recognize and fight it? The impact of Ponzi goes beyond numbers and statistics. Their actions have changed laws, regulations, and the way we handle investments. Why are their tactics still used by modern scammers? And how can we protect ourselves from falling into the same traps that have deceived so many? The Ponzi story is a grim reminder that the promise of quick riches can be a dangerous illusion. What can we do to keep our investments safe? How can we learn from the past to avoid future financial disasters? The lesson of Ponzi is clear. Vigilance and financial education are our best defenses. What else can we discover about the schemes that still threaten our money and our confidence today?